All right, what's up, y'all? We're back. Raw Prospect Podcast, episode 11. We're gonna be doing NBA awards for the first quarter of the season. We're 25 games into the NBA season. Michael's gonna talk about some college basketball, and let's get right into it. We're just gonna go through our MVP candidates, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Player, Sixth Man of the Year, just all in order. So stay tuned.
I guess I'll start it off.
Yeah.
You did the whole introduction. I guess we'll start off with MVP. My MVP quarter way through the season is Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak. In case y'all didn't know, he's averaging 27 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists on about 58% from shooting from the field, 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks, and a 28.3 player efficiency rating, which ranks 4th in the NBA. He's posting career offensive highs in about every individual statistical category you can imagine, except for maybe 3-point shooting, where he's actually shooting a horrendous 11% from 3. So definitely needs to get better there, but he's posting career offensive highs in every single category you can think of. He ranks top in the NBA in about every single offensive statistical category you can think of, except, of course, 3-point shooting. And the Bucks as a team are averaging nearly 12 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor than when he's off the court. So therefore, I have him as my season MVP. Some dudes that are up close, you could make the argument Curry should be in the conversation. Definitely, I think Leonard will end up being in the conversation. Leonard will end up being there when it's all said and done. And, of course, LeBron James, who's doing what he does and took over the game last night against the Spurs, scoring 22 in the fourth and basically won the game for the Lakers. So all those guys will be there, but so far I think Giannis Antetokounmpo would get the award if I were to hand it out today.
Well, I've actually got Kawhi at the top of my list. The game the other night against the Sixers, a few weeks before that against the Warriors, that's what basically performing in the big games. That's what the MVP is all about. And also the storyline and also putting up the numbers. He's still putting up 26 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, 49% from the field, 36% from three-point range. And I don't think those are good enough to be MVP. When it comes to Giannis, the only reason I'm not saying he'll win it is because I think the Bucks might struggle in the closing stretch of the season. That's the only reason I wouldn't pick him to win it at this point. But this is just my prediction. This is just my prediction for who's going to win it, not who's in the front running right now.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
I think I'm doing for right now, I would say Giannis, but I would definitely agree that one of the guys like LeBron or Kawhi would probably be more likely to actually win the award when it's all said and done at the end of the season, especially if LeBron takes that Lakers team to 50-plus wins and gets a top 3 seed in the West, or Kawhi leads the Raptors to the number 1 seed in the East and eventually leads them through the playoffs. But right now, I just think Giannis would win the award. That's all I'm saying.
I definitely agree with that. With what he's doing, he's shooting basically almost 60% from the field. That's just ridiculous.
I mean, if he could just be even one bit respectable from the 3-point range, but he's not yet. So that's his biggest problem. 11% is horrendous.
Yeah, it is.
But with that being said, I think we should do Rookie of the Year next. So maybe you start with this one. I'll follow it up.
I'm a little biased, but I have Doncic as my Rookie of the Year. He's averaging 18 points per game, 6.5 boards, 4.5 assists. He's struggling turning over the ball too much, but that's just part of being a rookie. He'll learn. I just think that he's been the most consistent, and also the fact that his success is leading to wins.
Exactly.
So, if say he wasn't winning as much, maybe Ayton would be in my top spot, or even, of course, Jerry Jackson Jr. is winning. He would be in the conversation as well. But Luka is the best or the second best player on the team, depending on who you're talking to. Some would say it's Harrison Barnes, but in my opinion, without Luka on the team, this is a 25-win team, maybe. So when you put that in perspective, he's already making a huge impact.
I 100% totally positively agree with you. Luka Doncic, I think Luka Doncic is going to be the Rookie Year, and so far I think he's the Rookie of the Year, and I don't think it's close. You mentioned the stats: 18.6 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1 steal, and half a block per. Let's look at the list of players in NBA history who have averaged 18.6 rebounds and 4 assists as a rookie in the NBA. Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, Larry Bird, Elgin Baylor, and Grant Hill. Let's look at the list of rookies who have shot at least 45% from the field, 37% from 3, and 79% from the line in their rookie year. That list only includes Larry Bird and Kyrie Irving.
Wow.
Doncic is on pace to join both of those lists, all while serving as what I believe as the Mavericks' leading scorer, their crunch time creator, a playmaker who can create in crunch time, a playmaking catalyst for a Mavericks team, which I think you would agree, but tell me if you don't, that is wildly exceeding or outperforming expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're on pace to win 43 games or something like that I read earlier. So he's on pace to join historic company, all while doing all those things for the Mavericks, and they're winning games. Yeah. The Suns are not winning games, and Memphis has been good, but there's been other factors just besides Jaren Jackson Jr. So all around, Doncic is the Rookie of the Year, and I don't think it's close.
Okay. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's kind of a done deal at this point, unless something drastic happens. I don't see anything. I don't see any other outcome.
Unless an injury were to happen or something drastic with maybe just if he hits a wall statistically, those are the only things that could maybe slow him down. But so far, it's not close. Yeah. Do you want to move on with your most improved player?
Yeah. My most improved player is Pascal Siakam.
Makes sense.
He's averaging 14.5 points per game on 63% shooting, about 7 boards. And if you it doesn't jump off the page, but if you watch him play, everything about his game is completely different. They trust him bringing the ball up the court now. They can trust him to facilitate even when he's bringing the ball up court. And he didn't have an offensive game last year. He didn't at all. He's a completely different player.
I could definitely see that happening. I picked a guy who maybe not a lot of people talk about, but his team is also outperforming expectations, and I see much improvement with him situationally. I picked De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
He is averaging 17.8 points, 7.6 assists, 4 rebounds, and 1.5 steals per game, and shooting about 39% from three.
Mm-hmm.
I took a look. I went back and I took a look at the past 9-10 winners of the Most Improved Player Award. Kevin Love, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, C.J. McCollum, Giannis, Victor Oladipo, Aaron Brooks, Ryan Anderson, and Goran Dragic. Those are just some names that have won this award in the past. And the average stat line for someone who wins Most Improved Player this award is 20 points per game, 6.4 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists per game, while shooting 46.2% from the field and 40% from three-point range. The average net difference from the year before and the year where they're most improved is 7.1 points per game, 1.4 rebounds per game, 1.1 more assists per game, and an increase of about 3% in field goal percentage. So far, De'Aaron Fox is right on track with those type numbers. He's improved his points per game by 5.8, his rebounds per game by 1.2, his assists per game by 3.2, and his field goal percentage by about 6%, while improving his three-point percentage by about 8%. He's not as good at the free throw line. That's one of his weaknesses. I believe he's only like 68%, but he's still putting up big numbers, and he looks more comfortable just doing his job. He looks more comfortable situationally, off pick and rolls, picking the right shots, not turning the ball over as much. And the Kings are winning games, or more games than I ever thought they would win. So
yeah, we've made fun of them, but you have to give them credit. They've definitely developed their talent.
Mm-hmm.
That you gotta hand it to them.
I believe they're like right in the thick of things in the
West.
Yeah,
they're a 9 seed right now.
Yeah. So if they keep on that trend, I think Fox will be someone who's in the conversation.
Definitely, yeah.
And then our final award that we're gonna do is Sixth Man of the Year. Sixth Man of the Year. So, Emmy, who's your Sixth Man of the Year?
My Sixth Man of the Year is Dennis Schroeder.
Okay.
He's averaging 16.5 points per game, 5 assists, 4.3 rebounds. Not crazy numbers, but he filled in for Russell Westbrook for 8 games this year, and he performed really well.
Yeah.
And also, if you just watch this team play compared to what their bench was last year, he's controlling the pace, and he's completely transformed that bench. I think there's definitely other 6 men who have better numbers, but I just think overall, I think he's the best 6 man in the league.
Okay. I have a guy. Well, I really had 2 guys you could consider, but I picked a guy, Domantas Sabonis from the Indiana Pacers.
Definitely.
He's averaging 14.3 points, 10.1 rebounds, 3.3 assists, shooting 63% from the field with a 24.4 player efficiency rating, which is like top 20 in the league. He has all the numbers and skills to win the award. You've seen some highlight reel plays he's had in the past with dunks over certain players. I think the hardest thing for him is going to be developing a narrative around his name to kind of get more attention. Another guy I had in my consideration was Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers.
Yeah, he's been balling.
Who's also been balling and probably is, well, it's hard to tell, but he probably makes more of an impact defensively than Sabonis does. But Sabonis is still a good defender. But I think, Montrezl Harrell playing in LA, Lou Williams could also be in the conversation. Derrick Rose with his popularity around his name.
Yeah, for sure.
There's just a narrative around those guys that Sabonis really doesn't have because he's on a smaller market team who doesn't really get as much attention as I think they should. So the hardest part for him is going to be getting the attention. But I think Sabonis right now is definitely in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year because of his stats and his skills. And I wouldn't honestly say you were wrong if you picked Harrell or even Dennis Schroeder, as you mentioned.
I definitely say Sabonis is in the conversation, especially if with Oladipo out,
exactly.
if they can stay afloat. That will definitely bolster his argument because last year, in terms of every advanced stat, they were a lottery team with Oladipo off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can stay afloat, then definitely, I can definitely see that happening.
I was reading something earlier. It was talking about Sabonis as a player. And it was talking about he could be potentially in the conversation for both most improved and Sixth Man of the Year. But the most weird thing about this was I read a stat. It was I believe the Pacers have 5 players who have won most improved player or either most improved player or Sixth Man of the Year since the turn of the century, since 2000. They've had 5 players to win those awards, which is kind of fascinating. I don't know. I just read that somewhere. So he would add to that number if he were to win. So that was kind of interesting, but kind of went off topic.
Yeah. That's right.
Are there any other NBA storylines or something you want to talk about before we move on?
I would say in terms of most improved players that they're not going to win the award because they were already okay to begin with. But in terms of honorable mention, I got to say Nikola Vucevic.
Definitely.
And Tobias Harris.
Okay. Yeah. There are a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
When I was doing this earlier, I had to go through a bunch of names, but I eventually just had to pick one, and I picked Box and Sabonis, but it could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
We'll definitely be monitoring this for the rest of the season. So.
Yeah. I know you wanted to do your college basketball, but we're getting some suggestions from the people. They want us to talk Steelers, and we are a podcast of the people, so I think we should.
They want me to talk about my Steelers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone wanted to piss me off. Okay, that's great. There are three things that really piss me off, or that are really hurting the Steelers. And this 2-game skid that they have. First of all, the most obvious thing is James Conner has not been as productive as he was during the 6-game winning streak. In the past 3 games, he's only averaging 55 rush yards per game. He had a critical fumble against Denver. And he's just not getting any sort of rhythm. And we're kind of starting to miss we're starting to realize that he really is not Le'Veon Bell. I think we already knew that, but now it's really starting to hurt us. That's the first thing. We've gone away from the run game, and we're not establishing the run. The second thing is the turnovers. In the past 2 games before the Chargers game, the Jaguars game, and the Broncos game, The offense turned it over 7 times. When your defense is not, when you put a defense like the Steelers in those type of short field situations, you allow offenses to get easy points in the red zone, and therefore those turnovers, some of them coming in critical situations, like in the interception in the red zone in the Denver game and the Connor fumble when Pittsburgh was driving down the field to go up 2 touchdowns. Those type of things will certainly kill you. That's the third thing. Stop turning the ball over. Establish the run. And then the third thing I was going to say is the secondary has gone back to being less than average. During the 6-game winning streak, they were pretty good. They didn't give up many big plays. But in the past couple weeks, they gave up a big play to a Chargers receiver last week. Keenan Allen was just killing him. And before that, they gave up some unnecessary plays to the Broncos passing game and allowed Denver to convert on a lot of third down and longs. If you go back and watch that game, there were a lot of 3rd and 13s, 3rd and 12s, which Denver converted, which they shouldn't have converted. The combination of the secondary not establishing the run and the turnovers are really killing this team. And I'll say this right now. We have to beat Oakland. If we don't beat Oakland, our season's basically over. I think we could end up missing the playoffs if we don't beat Oakland. And because if you look at it, and we'll mention this later when we talk about our NFL storylines, but the Ravens are now only a half game back. They could potentially win the division if Pittsburgh loses this week, because after this week, if you don't beat the Raiders, then you got to play New England, and then you got to go to New Orleans. If you don't beat the Raiders, you could have 2 more losses after that, and then you're done. Have to beat the Raiders, and I think you have to win one of the 2 games against New Orleans or New England, and I think we'll beat the Bengals in Week 17 because there's the Bengals. We always beat the Bengals. But Oakland's a must-win, and those are the 3 problems that are killing me. Don't even start with me on the San Diego game. There were so many things that went wrong for the Steelers and also went against the Steelers in that game, including the calls. Some of the calls in that game were just idiotic. But there you go. I don't know, man.
Yeah. I feel you, dude.
It seems like their season starting to slip away, especially what looked like a promising season and a couple weeks ago after that comeback, that amazing comeback win in Jacksonville, what looked like a promising season and maybe a first-round bye has suddenly gone from that to fighting for the division and maybe their playoff lives in a span of 2 weeks because you turn the ball over, you don't establish the run, and your secondary has been crap. So, I don't know, man. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's the AFC playoff picture is definitely getting a lot more interesting. Also, I'll say that much. If the Chiefs lose this week against Baltimore, it's going to get crazy. That's all I'm going to say. In terms of getting that number 1 seed, it's going to be Chargers, Chiefs, Patriots. And Patriots already have the head-to-head against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
since that person, whoever that person was, asked me about the Steelers, and since we're already talking about the NFL, I think we should just stick to doing the NFL now, and then we can do the college basketball stuff after.
All right. That's
fine. Since I talked about my Steelers, let's talk about your Cowboys. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the offensive line, uh, the left guard position has been way better ever since we got that rookie out of there. Like, I would never wish an injury upon somebody, but that injury actually helped us because Jason Garrett's too much of a wuss to bench somebody. He's too much of a politician. That's just not who he is. And then the second thing, we got to get Tyron Smith back as soon as possible. Obviously, we know that the defense is the strength of the team, but it's just that the only thing is just that we have one way of winning. Like there's no coming from behind with this team. There's no winning a shootout. We only have one way to win games with our defense and controlling the clock and Dak making a couple third down throws here and there, dink and dunk. It's doing enough right now, but come playoff time, we're gonna have to be able to win different ways. We've only won one way all year, and that's kind of concerning.
I see what you mean.
But overall, I'm happy with where we're at right now.
Okay. I wanted to mention the AFC playoff race right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start with Denver.
Yeah.
Because they've won. Let's see. Yeah, they won 3 straight.
Yeah.
To get back to, I believe, 500.
Mm.
At 6-6. They beat a Chargers team that was coming in hot on like a 6 or 7 game winning streak. They beat a Pittsburgh team that was coming in hot on another 6 game winning streak. And then they beat the horrendous Bengals last week.
Mm-hmm.
And their schedule is very favorable down the stretch. They get to play the 2 or 3 win 49er team, the Browns at home, the Raiders, and the Chargers in Week 17. Now, if you think about it, since the Chargers are behind the Chiefs and probably won't win the division, barring like a typical Chiefs
collapse.
Yeah. The Chargers may not have as much to play for in that Week 17 game because they'll already probably be locked into one of the wild card slots.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at that, that's also a winnable game at home. So with their schedule's very favorable down the stretch. Now you look at Baltimore, who's only a half game back of the Steelers now in the division, as I mentioned. They have a tougher schedule down the stretch. They still have games at the Chiefs. Buccaneers, they should win that. The Chargers on the road, and the Browns. I think the Ravens team needs, if they could go 3-1 in this stretch, beat the Buccaneers and the Browns, and then win one of the 2 games on the road against either the Chiefs or the Chargers. If they can go 3-1 in that stretch, they have a very good shot at winning the AFC North. If they can go 2-2 in that stretch, I think that likely puts them in a wild card slot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have another 2 teams, which come to mind, which are the Titans, who are playing right now, and I believe are beating the Jaguars. And then you have the Colts, who have a must-win game this weekend against
Houston.
If the Colts can beat Houston, which is going to be tough because it's on the road, they have games against the Cowboys, Giants, and Titans after that. So I think it all starts now for Indianapolis. They have to win this weekend because you also have a game against a hot Cowboys team and a game on the road in Tennessee. So it's going to be really interesting to see who gets those 2 wild card slots. Well, one's going to be the Chargers, but who gets the last wild card slot? And in my opinion, I think it will be either the Broncos or Baltimore. Most likely Denver because of their favorable schedule, but I could certainly see Baltimore also getting it. Any thoughts?
Denver is looking good right now. It's looking good for them. I haven't seen them in these last 3 weeks. I haven't seen them play. I'm assuming they're playing better, but I look at a team like the Browns. That might be a trap game if they get what would you say, too lazy. Maybe because they're still the same team that was like 3-6 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
they still have all the same guys. Like what's changed is just that Case Keenum isn't turning it over, and they're actually getting third downs and they're finishing games.
Now I did forget that Emmanuel Sanders did tear his Achilles this week in practice. That's really going to hurt them
for sure.
I didn't think about that when I was going on that whole spiel. So I think maybe Baltimore actually has a better shot at getting the last wild card spot. But if you look at Denver in the past couple of weeks, their defense has been playing good. And the most impressive thing is Phillip Lindsay has been one of the feel-good stories this year in the NFL. He's averaging, I think, over 100 yards rushing in the past 3 games. On this 3-game winning streak, he's been fantastic.
Yeah,
taking some of the pressure off Case Keenum. And when you have that running game established to go along with the defense that they have, they're going to be tough to beat down the stretch. But I definitely see what you're saying with maybe a letdown game here or there, and also the injury to Sanders is going to hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Denver definitely missed out. I think they should have tried to go out and get Kelvin Benjamin right after that Sanders injury to kind of try and fill the void. But I believe Kansas City has signed him already. So
I don't know, man.
What happens with that?
I don't know if I want much to do with Kelvin Benjamin at this point. He's had weight problems. He doesn't seem like he has the right work ethic. I don't know. That seems kind of bad for me to be saying that just based on what I've heard. I don't know anything about the guy other than that. So I should just stop.
Well, I mean, we've seen what the receivers, at the trade deadline have done for their respective teams. Since Demaryius Thomas joining the Texans, they've been fantastic in filling the void for Will Fuller. And then Golden Tate has done some good things for the Eagles lately. So when you have a guy that has the intangibles that Kelvin Benjamin has, and you lose a guy like Emmanuel Sanders, when you've already traded away Demaryius Thomas, it can't hurt but try and get a guy with the talent that Kelvin Benjamin has, even if that talent has not produced yet. Aside from his rookie year where he put up over 1,000 yards for the Panthers. I just don't think it would hurt to go after him, but now it doesn't matter because the Chiefs have signed him.
Yeah.
And that's not really a good thing for the rest of the AFC because
now they have a legit tall red zone receiver.
He has Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball. So
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
And he has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce to take all the attention away from him. Because in Buffalo, he's virtually like the only guy who
was actually who
outside.
we actually knew about.
Yeah.
But getting away from that, let's talk about the NFC a little bit.
Okay.
What do you make of the struggles Cam Newton's been having lately? He threw 4 picks against the Bucs, a terrible defense, 27th in the NFL. We were talking about early in the season that the North Turner thing is working, and now it seems like it's not. So what do you make of all this?
Well, early in the season, Carolina's defense was playing very well. I believe they were like top 10, or at least top half of the league. They were playing very well, and Cam Newton was seemingly having his best season, aside from his MVP season, of his career.
Exactly.
But now, ever since, and I know ever since they got blown out in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, they haven't won a game ever since then. Their defense has been horrendous. Their secondary is not on the same page. And it doesn't help that they have to play New Orleans twice in the next 4 weeks when your defense is struggling like that. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs anymore because of their schedule down the stretch. Their secondary is not on the same page. They've had injuries to their front 7. Newton doesn't look the same. I can't really give you an explanation because I haven't watched him all that much past couple weeks. And virtually the only guy, it seems the Panthers offense is a one-man show with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Greg Olsen has been on and off the field with injuries.
And now he's out for the year.
And they have a bunch of okay receivers like they've always had.
Yeah. They need to – I think they just need to reload.
They have a deficit, of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Aside from McCaffrey and, of course, Newton, and their defense is really struggling. I believe they fired their defensive line coach or linebacker coach, whatever it was. But now that you have New Orleans twice down the stretch, and I don't know who else is on their schedule. Let me check while I keep rambling. Okay, so they play the Browns, the Saints twice, and the Falcons. I believe they could win. I think they can beat the Browns and the Falcons. I think they go 2-2 at best down the stretch, maybe 1-3. So you're looking at about an 8-8, 7-9 finish for the Panthers. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I don't know what's happened. Their defense has just been horrible, and Newton only has one weapon, and that's McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'd say Newton's mechanics just get sloppy.
Yeah.
It feels like when he's not on national TV, when he has, which is basically every week, only a few where he's on prime time, but
now here's a positive. I look at this 4-game losing streak for the Panthers. Now they got blown out against the Steelers. That wasn't even a question. But I look at a game they should have won and could have won in Detroit, where they went for 2 and didn't get it. They could have won that game.
Yeah.
If either they convert the 2-point conversion or they just kick the extra point, tie the game, and go to overtime. That's a game they should have and maybe could have won.
Yeah, I'd kick
and
the
then,
field.
And then I look at the Seahawks game 2 weeks ago. That's a game they also should have won at home. They had that game in control. The secondary allowed a couple deep throws down the field by Russell Wilson to Tyler Lockett. Some plays that went the Seahawks' way, and Newton was horrible down the stretch in that game. That's a game they could have won also. And then last week, just not a good performance at all by Newton against the Buccaneers. That's probably a game they don't deserve to win, but maybe even could have won. They only lost by 7. When you throw 4 interceptions and only lose by 7, I mean, something. You're doing something right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at 2 of those games, which they probably should have and could have won. One which they didn't play well at all, but they still hung in there. And then one where they just totally got run out of the building.
Yeah. That's enough on that. The Seahawks might make a wild card. Who knows? The Eagles are kind of making a playoff push. If they can beat the Cowboys this week, they'll get that 4. They might get that 4 seed. I don't know.
My cousin is
that
watching,
game is huge.
I believe, and I think he's a humongous Seahawks fan, so I'm going to talk about Seattle for a minute.
Okay.
They are rolling right now. They blew out the 49ers. Now, that's not hard to do, but they did. Their 3rd straight victory. They've gone from 4-5 to 7-5, and they've gotten themselves back into the postseason hunt. If the season ended today, Seattle would be the 5 seed in the NFC. They found their formula. It's run the ball with the combination of Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, and whoever else is in that backfield. It's run the ball, control the clock, let Russell Wilson do his thing, make his plays, and then generate a pass rush against opposing quarterbacks. They rushed for 168 yards on 29 carries on Sunday, an average of 5 yards per carry. They're now leading the league in rushing, and it's working. And I believe Russell Wilson, he's not going to win the MVP, but if they make the playoffs, he's a fringe MVP candidate with what he's doing for this team.
Yeah, he definitely deserves consideration. I agree with that.
They have a ground and pound offense, great pass rush. They're scoring in the red zone, which is impressive. I don't know the remaining schedule. I believe they do have to play the Chiefs. I know that for a fact. I don't know the rest of their games. They play the Vikings this weekend, which should be an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a must-win for Minnesota. So I think Seattle will make the playoffs because they found their formula.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson is doing fantastic things for them right now. So,
and the weird thing is when we did our preseason predictions for everybody, we had Seattle at around 8-8, and we just didn't think the defense would be this good. Really,
yeah.
They look like the same team. They've got all new faces all over the place, but they still have the same scheme. It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
So it's impressive what Pete Carroll's doing. I would see him as a Coach of the Year candidate for sure.
Okay. They play Minnesota at home. The 49ers again on the road, but they should win that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs at home. And the Cardinals at home. 3 of their 4 remaining games are at home. 2 of them should be automatic wins against San Francisco and Arizona. The Vikings will be a tough game, but it's at home. Russell Wilson's playing good. I think they'll generate enough of a pass rush to bother Kirk Cousins, who hasn't been good in big games.
Mm-hmm. I
think they'll win that game. I think you're looking at a 3-1 stretch, maybe even 4-0, if they can. If the Chiefs are, have a either a mess up or resting some players in that late season game on a short week against the Seahawks on the road. I think you're looking at a 3-1, maybe even 4-0 stretch for Seattle, and look out in the playoffs. I don't want to see this team in the playoffs, especially for one of the lower seeded teams in the NFC, like maybe
Dallas,
exactly,
or
there,
Chicago.
Yeah.
Even at home, I wouldn't want to face this team. Our home field advantage isn't that crazy good, so it's like, and this is a team that forces turnovers.
Yeah.
They control the ball, and they just get you out of there. They just get you out of your game completely. Yep. And Russell Wilson is 100% qualified to tear apart our defense.
I think in one of those NFC wildcard games, whichever one Seattle ends up in, and I believe it will either be against Dallas or Chicago, I think you're going to see a really low-scoring defensive battle, which I would pick, honestly, Seattle to win because they have that quarterback with Super Bowl experience, big game experience. So things are pointing up for Seattle. Any other teams we need to mention?
I think that's it.
We need to talk about Kareem Hunt and Mike McCarthy before we move on. So before we talk about Hunt, I want to get your thoughts on the Mike McCarthy firing for Green Bay.
I honestly don't think it'll magically solve everything the way people are hoping it will. I honestly don't. There's talent on this team, but it seems like they just need to get a good draft pick and let Rodgers sit and just reload, get ready for next year, and go get ready to make the playoffs next year. That's really what they need to do. I know they're not going to, but in terms of this team's future, I really don't know what to say. They have some good secondary pieces they got in the draft. Zaire Alexander, and I think his name is Josh Jackson, another rookie. But they're gonna have to. First of all, they're gonna have to bulk up their linebacker core. Probably the first step is get rid of Clay Matthews. He's been there way too long. Why is he still there? First of all, you can probably keep Blake Martinez. He's pretty solid, but then just bulk up that front seven. Get somebody in the draft that can put pressure on the quarterback, and that defense will be a lot better because they already have some secondary pieces. And like I said before, though, this firing is not going to magically change everything. It's just not.
Yeah, I agree. I think the problem, and you can ask Aaron Rodgers and you can ask Mike McCarthy about their relationship, and they'll say it was good, but I definitely think there were some differences in the two sides, which led to this firing. I think Rodgers got his way. I think he tried to run him out of town. I think they need someone. They need to bring in either an offensive coordinator or a new head coach that's going to hold Aaron Rodgers more accountable to higher standards than he has been held to. I'm not saying Mike McCarthy didn't do that. I wouldn't know. We're not in the organization to know enough. Nobody is, but They need a strong personality who can come down hard on Aaron Rodgers when things aren't going well. If you look around the league, Josh McDaniels yells at Tom Brady all the time.
Yeah.
When did Mike McCarthy ever yell at Aaron Rodgers? I haven't seen it. They need a strong personality who's going to come in there and motivate Aaron Rodgers even more. Because we've seen what Aaron Rodgers can do when he's motivated and pissed off. So
yeah,
I think they need a new coach, that offensive mastermind who can do a lot of different, who can change the scheme, but at the same time motivate Aaron Rodgers and hold him to higher standards. And then, of course, they got to do a better job at acquiring talent. On the front seven of that defense, and then also on the offensive.
Just get them some weapons. That's really all they gotta do. Like,
I don't know why
they drafted some wide receivers in the 5th round, the late rounds, but that ain't gonna cut it, man. Just get them some receivers.
And a lot of people will say, well, they should have just let McCarthy, coach the rest of the season. And I understand that. He did respect to a good coach who's won a Super Bowl and all that. But at the same time, firing him now gives them a head start in their head coaching search, whether they hire that Joe Philbin guy who's going to replace McCarthy for the rest of the year, where they hire him, or someone else. It gives them a chance to start interviewing coaches for that job.
Yeah.
Because, if you look at some guys down the college game, college season's about to be over, and right after that happens, they can start interviewing, get kind of a head start on that.
Yeah.
It should be interesting to see if, what happens with that Browns job also. So
yeah, I look at that Chiefs offensive coordinator. I forgot his name, but he would definitely be a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
But you said you wanted to touch on Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
I'll make this quick, man. It's just not acceptable. It's just not.
Yeah.
I
don't want to get into the details of whatever happened or what all that. I don't want to do that. What I'm going to say is the NFL needs to do a better job in their investigation tactics or whatever. Apparently, they have not learned a thing since the incidents with Ray Rice back in 2014. They haven't learned a thing. Why is it that TMZ has to publish the video? Why is it always that TMZ finds the video first and the NFL finds out about it? It should be the other way around. I think the NFL should take more responsibility and do these things on their own. Why does TMZ have to do it for them? That's the first thing. TMZ released a video of him striking and kicking a 19-year-old woman in a Cleveland hotel in February, and I believe there were 2 other incidents, which I haven't seen the videos of, but there were 2 other incidences, one of him punching a hotel clerk in the face and another of something else happening. I think it was the right move and the good move for the Chiefs to release him right after the videos came out. We don't know exactly what Kareem Hunt told the Chiefs back in the off season, how bad of a lie it actually was. What did he lie about? What did he tell the Chiefs about the situation? Back in the off season, we don't know what transpired within the organization, but it's pretty shameful to me that the league doesn't take more responsibility in improving its investigative skills with these incidents, because it seems to me TMZ is better at obtaining video of NFL players than the league itself or the teams for that matter.
Yeah.
And the same goes for the Reuben Foster stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say too. I was about to bring that up. I don't think he should have a job. Just saying.
No. Now, they have talked about, I don't think this will ever happen, but they have talked, I think there need to be repercussions for teams that sign these type of players. I don't think they should ever play in the NFL again. There needs to be repercussions for teams that sign these players coming off incidences like these. Maybe like you lose a draft pick. You lose a first-round draft pick if you sign these teams.
I mean, it is a legend, so
they need to cut. I know that would probably never happen, but because the NFL values.
But yeah, I agree with you. There needs to be some form of consequence.
The NFL values their overall product, right? What they put on national television and the players on the field more than or it seems to be more than disciplinary actions against players. A 6-game suspension and him re-signing with the team is not going to do anything. They need more responsibility, more accountability within the league's front office, and they need to take more responsibility in improving its investigative skills.
Yeah, I agree.
The same thing happened with Ray Rice. TMZ released the video. He got released by the Ravens, and never got another chance to play in the NFL. But I don't believe that was because of the incident. I believe that was because he was 33 and his production had fallen way off. If you look at Kareem Hunt, he's younger and he still has a lot left in the tank, and he's a more talented running back than Ray Rice. So if you look at it, after he serves his whatever will be 6-8 game suspension, some team, I guarantee you, is going to pick him up because there are no repercussions for signing someone like that.
Yeah.
So, kind of disappointing, but it's what it is.
There's just a point of self-control, like just a point of, like in the video, like there was guys holding him back. I don't know what exactly the woman said to him. Like I was ticked off, but you gotta chill. I don't have any other words for it, man.
The other incident was he was at some bar or something, and it was a couple hours after they had lost that game to that playoff game to the Titans. Mm-hmm. And what I'm guessing happened is some Titans fan or something probably pissed him off, said something to him, and he overreacted and probably did something he shouldn't have. That's probably what happened, but I might be wrong. But that's just my prediction on what happened based on the circumstance, based on when it took place, like 3 hours after they had lost the playoff game.
Yeah. But that's enough on that, I think.
Yeah.
Let's get into the college basketball stuff.
All right. So those were our NBA awards. Quarter season. We talked some NFL, big storylines and all that crap. And now I'm going to give you my 3 biggest college basketball surprise teams, because we're about 1 month into the season, and my 3 biggest disappointments. I'll make this as quick as possible. I'll start with the surprise teams. I'm just going to name the team and give a short explanation of why that team's on the list. Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech has a near elite defense. It's top 10 in the nation, and they have double-digit neutral site wins over both Nebraska, who's a top 25 team, and USC, who is not a top 25 team anymore, but was. Jarrett Culver has emerged as a star and an All-America level player, averaging 18.3 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists for the Raiders, and they have a bunch of other talent also. My second team is Wisconsin. Wisconsin's only loss of this season came to Virginia in the Battle for Atlantis tournament during Thanksgiving week. But they have since bounced back with wins over a good NC State team and a top 25 Iowa team. Ethan Happ, who was in our discussions when we talked about Naismith Basketball Player of the Year awards back a couple podcasts ago, is averaging 17.7 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists, and he's exceeding lofty expectations we set for him in the preseason. In addition to that, Dimitri Trice, averaging 17.4 points per game, Brad Davison and Nate Roovers have all stepped up to contribute. Wisconsin has also improved significantly from beyond the arc. From last year, they ranked 14th in the nation in three-point shooting and pose a top 20 defense. And my third surprise team is Iowa State. Iowa State came into the season as an underrated threat within the Big 12. However, I did not expect them to be 7-1 given the amount of injuries they've had. The team has talent, but forwards Cameron Lard and Zoran Talley missed their first 7 games with suspension, and star players Solomon Young and Lyndall Wigington, their coveted sophomore, have also been sidelined with injury and haven't even played yet this year. Yet they're still 7-1, and they've improved their efficiency, according to KenPom.com, from number 24 in the nation to number 16. Once they get healthy, they'll be in the conversation for the Big 12, for best team in the Big 12, although I think it's Kansas, Texas Tech, and Iowa State both could challenge for the Big 12 conference title. And then my disappointments. The first one is Oregon. Oregon started this season as a top 25 team, and Bol Bol, their top player, has been fantastic this far, averaging about 22 points and 9.6 rebounds. However, Oregon has a bunch of other talent that does not fit together, and they have losses at home to Texas Southern and a road loss to Houston, both terrible losses for the resume. I don't know where this is going to go in the past or in the future. I think they should still win what is a really weak Pac-12 conference, but they're definitely not a top 25 team right now, and they need to fix some things. They have some real issues on both sides of the ball. My second team is UNC. I thought this UNC team would be a lot better given their talent, but it has not gone that well. They got blown out by a fantastic Michigan team, which is understandable because that defense is hard to overcome. So I'm not surprised about the loss there. But they look downright limp all game against Texas, a game which I don't think they should have lost. But Texas is now unranked and has lost 2 straight games to both Radford and VCU last night. So that loss is looking worse and worse for this UNC team. Their defense is horrendous. This is one of Coach Roy Williams' worst jobs as UNC head coach. He needs to get it figured out. UNC is not a top 3 team in the ACC right now. I give the nod to Virginia, Duke, and Virginia Tech. I think all those teams are better. They need to figure some things out. They've been big disappointments so far this year. And my third team is Villanova. They were blown out by Michigan again. Michigan is they're definitely a top 5 team in the country, but they were blown out by Michigan. Okay, that's understandable. But you lost at home to Furman, and you barely beat a winless LaSalle team at home. Yeah. They lost a lot of production through the draft the past couple of years, but there are clear problems facing this team on both offense and defense. Their prize recruit, point guard Javon Quinterly, his play time has decreased because of he's been on the court for a total of 5 minutes in Villanova's last 3 games against Oklahoma State, Florida State, and LaSalle. And Jay Wright has some depth issues that he's got to figure out. So it's going to be a tough task for Villanova to win the Big East due to all the lost production. Those were my 3 biggest surprises and my 3 biggest disappointments so far this year. Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Iowa State, Oregon, North Carolina, and Villanova.
I might have to throw Texas in there as well. They didn't have that much expectation as the teams you had just named, but living in Austin, I'm definitely feeling the tension going on. There's definitely a lot of people behind firing Shaka Smart right now. They lost to Radford. They just lost to VCU last night. The offense looks terrible. And I just think there needs to be more structure to the offense. There needs to be less freelance, less moving the ball side to side, and more plays run where guys are moving around screens, more structured. Because I don't think this team is mature enough to just run the offense and have it flow on its own. I don't think they're ready.
I believe this. Texas gets a great test this weekend at home against Purdue. I think if they win that game, his job should be safe till at least halfway through conference play. But if they get blown out and don't look good at all against Purdue, a team which is in the top 25 but is beatable, because Florida State beat them, I think he'll definitely be more in the hot seat. I don't know if they'll actually fire him, but they need a spark and they need to play well this weekend against Purdue.
Yeah,
at least give them a run for their money.
We need to get going right now because the Big 12 is going to be a grind and everybody knows it.
Yeah. As far as conferences go, the Big 12 and ACC and the Big 10 are definitely the 3 best conferences in the nation. The SEC is kind of top heavy with Tennessee and Kentucky. You could throw Auburn in there if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then Pac-12.
They're kind of a joke.
They're not good at all. They're kind of terrible.
Like, what the heck happened to Arizona?
Oregon's
scandal.
I mentioned Oregon's problems.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Texas Southern and Houston. Houston I can kind of understand because Houston was at the tournament last year, and they actually, I believe, won a game in the tournament last year.
Mm-hmm.
Went to the round of 32. But Texas Southern, that's just terrible.
Yeah.
I think they'll still win their conference because it's the Pac-12, but Pac-12 is kind of terrible.
Yeah.
Like
there might only be one team to make the tournament at that conference.
Well, I think let's see. Let me see. Who else is in the Big 12? I'm
Pac-12.
stuttering here.
UCLA, USC, Arizona.
I think we'll probably see maybe three teams, 4 teams tops in the tournament from this conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will be Oregon, USC, a good Washington team, and then
I forgot about Washington. My bad.
And then maybe either UCLA, but other than that, I don't really see any other teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of disappointing. You look at the Big 12, who could put, 7 or 8 teams in the tournament. The ACC, who will probably have 9 or 10 teams in the tournament. And then the Big 10, who will probably have 5 to 7 teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, but we're only a month in.
Yeah, it's early. It's definitely really early.
We haven't even gotten to conference play yet. So.
Yeah, lots of time. Do you
before we go,
Mm-hmm.
since we're done with college basketball for now, I just want to touch on college football.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Yeah,
because it's now bowl season, and on Sunday they released the college football playoff and all 39 bowl games. You have the 39 bowl games plus the 2 college football playoff games plus the national championship. So they released all the bowl games. We were going to do a full-on preview of the New Year's Six bowls, but we believe it's a little too early for that because they're so far out. Not until later in December. But we'll definitely do that in a future podcast. But right now, we're just going to talk about the Heisman Trophy. That will be awarded this Saturday. And then we'll touch on our first impressions of the college football playoff. So, do you want to start us off with your Heisman vote?
I know I was on the Tua bandwagon a few weeks ago, but I'm with Kyler now. I think Kyler should win it. Now that his team is in the playoff, leading that defense
exactly
into the playoff is a crazy feat that should not be undermined. That it's insane. They gave up 3 40-point games in a row, and they won all those games. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely put my vote for Kyler Murray. I mean, he's on course to set FBS records for passing efficiency with a rating of 205.7, the best ever. Passing yards per attempt, 11.9, and percentage of passes thrown for touchdowns, 11.8%. He's also the only FBS player in history to average more than 300 yards passing and 60 yards rushing.
Wow.
Oklahoma is an offensive juggernaut, and they're first in the country in scoring. Why? Because of Kyler Murray. He accounts for 380 total yards per game, which is second in the nation, and he's having an absurdly great statistical season. And he's carrying an awful defense.
Yeah.
In addition to his ability with his arm, he has another element with his legs. He's rushed for 892 yards and 11 touchdowns in addition to his 41 touchdown passes, which gives him a total of 52 touchdowns this year. And his athleticism and quickness rivals some of the best wide receivers in the game today. So,
and he never gets hit.
Yeah, exactly.
He always fights.
He's been carrying the 96th best scoring defense in the country. He's had to win shootouts against West Virginia. Who else?
Texas. Yeah.
Oklahoma State. He's had to win a bunch of shootouts, carrying an awful, horrendous defense. It's weird because Oklahoma's defense always seems to make a couple plays which give them opportunities to win games. To win those games, but overall, their defense is horrible.
Yeah.
So
they did play better in the championship game against Texas.
They did.
Yeah.
But their margin, Oklahoma's margin for error on offense is much smaller than Alabama's and Ohio State's. And Murray has put up insane numbers, and he's answered at the most critical points this year. He's answered the call. I think Tua had a fantastic season, but I think the injury in the SEC championship game, along with the 2 interceptions and not playing as well as he should have against Georgia, hurt him in this race. And Kyler Murray overall performed better in his respective championship game.
Yeah.
And I think he'll end up winning the award.
Yeah. Let me just say one thing, though, about the actual cultural playoff game. Oklahoma and Alabama, that's a better game than people think.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that right now. Alabama is beatable. You heard it here first, people. Alabama is beatable. It can be done. And this offense will be able to put up points.
Yep.
100% believe that. So if you're betting on this game, vote on the over.
There are going to be a lot of points scored. And it kind of sucks that the Heisman is going to be given out before that game is played. Because I believe if the Heisman were to be given out after that game is played, it would be decided by that game.
For sure. 100%.
So it kind of sucks that's happened, but it's also going to be cool to see, if Kyler Murray wins the Heisman, would he go out and justify that and beat Alabama? Or, would Tua get really pissed? And then it'll be an interesting storyline going into that game, definitely.
For
whoever wins the Heisman.
Yeah.
It's not going to play a big factor in whoever wins, but it'll definitely be a side story going into the game, for sure.
Yeah.
That will give the runner-up some extra motivation going into that game, which will add an extra element to the game itself. And then the other semifinal will also be interesting, Clemson and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We'll preview that game in a future podcast. But as far as that game goes, on one side of the ball, you have Trevor Lawrence, who's been fantastic for that Clemson offense. And you have a Clemson front seven who, like we said at the beginning of the year, is one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
If not the best. So.
But the secondary has given up big plays, though.
They have. I've not watched a lot of Notre Dame.
So I haven't either.
I'm not going to go out on a limb and say something about Notre Dame that's not true. But I can't say a lot about Notre Dame, but we'll definitely get more on that later and preview that in a later podcast.
Here's what I will say about Notre Dame. If they can stop the run, they will be making this game a lot better than the 12-point underdogs that they are right now. That's for sure. Because if they're not able to establish Etienne, they're going to have to be throwing on third and longs, and they don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because really, Clemson just has not been challenged.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see Notre Dame. I think the opening line for that game, I don't know exactly what it was, but I definitely think it should be closer than what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I think people are overlooking Notre Dame.
Yeah, they have NFL talent all over the field.
Yeah, because they didn't play in a conference championship game, and they just haven't played. They're not going to have played in a while when they play that game, but we'll see. So, and in our next podcast, we'll also preview some other bowl games. the other New Year's Six bowls, you have Florida and Michigan, Texas and Georgia. UCF, I believe, plays
LSU.
LSU.
If I'm UCF, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Just saying. That's
There's another
terrible.
bowl
They
game.
should be playing Georgia. Give them a shot. Why not?
Yeah. So our next podcast, we'll do that. We'll probably talk more NFL.
Yeah.
Given it's closer to playoff time and whatever else we feel like.
Yeah.
And
And
it might be this weekend, but most likely it'll be early next week.
early next week. Yeah.
Look out for that.
All right, that'll do it, guys. Thanks for watching. Drop a like, subscribe. And thanks for all the comments, y'all. That was a very active comment section. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.